a while. Hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Margaret, and this is where I talk about books. It's been a minute since I have sat down in front of a camera. I took a break from BookTube, but I'll get into that in just a minute. Today, we are going to figure out what I am going to be reading for the month of March. Yes, I know, it is well into March by the time you are seeing this video, but I gave myself like a deadline, or I don't know, is it a deadline if you can't do anything until that date? Please sound off in the comments. I'm not entirely sure what boundary maybe? I basically said, Margaret, you're not thinking about making videos until March 1st. I didn't edit any videos. I didn't think about creating any videos. I decided not to worry about a TBR. I decided to just read what I wanted to read, which I do that anyways, but like, it was really nice to take a step back and it was nice to kind of just let my brain go places that were not making videos and how do I get this video to be successful and all of that. I've been doing this for almost 5 years. I've taken a few impromptu breaks that I felt really guilty for because I didn't just make them like say this is a break. I'd just be like, oh, I'll post when I post, like, so this time we decided we were gonna like, this is a break, and that was really nice. It was really nice to not have to worry about any of that stuff. It was really nice to not be looking at my analytics and not be worrying about how is this video doing, is it gonna pick up, is anybody even gonna watch it, because I've been struggling with that. Anytime you do anything creative, there's a part of it that's for you, but also there's a part of it that you want to share it with other people. You want to know that other people are paying attention to your work and watching it, and I think that is something that's really hard when you're a smaller booktuber, and it's especially really hard when you've been a smaller booktuber for a while. We're just gonna continue on because I like doing this, and I've kind of missed it, and that was the answer that I needed. Probably still have moments where I'm like, why am I even doing this? But I'm not ready to throw the towel in it just yet. One change that you are going to be seeing at some point, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around exactly what I want to do with it, is I'm gonna make a few changes to Fablen to maybe get it more in line with some goals that I am trying for 2023. Or some things that I'm trying to change about my reading life. I haven't figured out how that's going to work yet, so we're just going to continue on with Fablen as normal for March, potentially for April. Like, I want to figure out how to make it work before I make this change. So that's going to be coming at some point. And yeah, let's get into what I am going to be reading for the month of March. Things you need to know about March. We are coming back with the Rick Riordan, the R-Squared Readalong book club, whatever it is we call it. I am too lazy to go look it up right now. Also, my phone is currently being used, so I can't, like, I can't change it. Let's get into what I am going to need to be reading for the month of March. First off, I need to read Arusha and the Tree of Riches by Roshni Chokshi. Our first book is about Arusha. She is the reincarnation of one of the Pandava brothers, only this time around it is the 5 Pandava sisters, and basically they are these figures of Indian myth and legend that kind of keep coming back around and around again when certain things happen in our world, and they're caught in this loop because of the big bad evil guy who Aru accidentally wakes up in the first book. And the next book that I absolutely have to get to this month is Even Though I Knew the End by C.L. Polk. This is a alternate version of like I want to say the 1940s going off of their clothes, but it is about a woman who made a deal to save, I think, her brother's life. Yeah, her brother's life, and is doing like one last job for a client before she ends up spending the rest of her eternity in hell. There is a little bit of a sapphic romance in it. This is the group book for TorDotComAthon. TorDotComAthon is one of the 3 readathons that I will be attempting, hopefully participating in March. If you have not heard of TorDotComAthon, it is the brainchild of Bethany over at Beautifully Bookish Bethany. It's going from March 1st to March 31st, and the goal of this readathon is to read as many Tor titles as possible. I have fewer Tor books than I thought I did, actually, on my TBR, but I'm going to be participating. I'm going to be trying to get some of these books read, because they need to be read. And also, a lot of them are fantasy titles. So, let's go with that. The next readathon that I am going to be participating in is Roll of Reads by a book fiend named Mel. So it's pretty simple. You roll a d8, you take and you're going to read that many prompts, and then you roll a d20 until you have the correct prompts. I will have the videos for all of these linked down below. You can go and look and see how she explains it if you would like. I've already done my I've already done my rolls. I did things slightly differently because we have Fablen in the mix. I decided I was going to roll the d8 and then I was going to add 2 to whatever that number was, just so I would have a little bit extra to choose from. And you'll see in a minute that I'm actually kind of glad that I added those extra 2, just because, well, let's roll the footage. Rolling to see how many prompts we're pulling. As you can see, I rolled a 2. I decided I was going to add 2 more to that just to have some variety. Basically, what's going to happen is I'm going to pull prompts from Fablen, and I've got these prompts worked in there, or things that will work with these prompts worked in there. Hopefully, I will get at least 2 Roll of Reads prompts in there that will work with Roll of Reads, and if I don't, then I'm just going to have to add in an extra book to make sure that I fit the criteria for that readathon. I did go ahead last night and roll for all of my prompts, so I'm going to walk you through those. Rolling for prompt number 1. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So as you can see, that first one was the orc. For the orc prompt, you need to read a thriller, mystery, horror, or dark academia book. I think it's going to be pretty easy to make that work with Fablen and some of the other stuff that I'm trying to do, especially with the next readathon that I'm going to discuss. Rolling for prompt number 2. 16. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 16. For the second prompt, I did pull Buddy Read or Book Club. I'm already having to read the Aru Shah book, so hopefully I'll be able to get that in on my Fablen TBR somehow. Rolling for prompt number 3. That is 12, so 10, 11, 12. For the third prompt, I picked Read a Book by a BIPOC author. Y'all know that that is the goal that I have every month. Make sure that I, not just a book, more than one book. And rolling for number 4, the final one, 19. And then for Cleric, the final prompt, the prompt is to read a book with religious or mythology-based stuff. I'm not entirely sure if I remember whether or not I can double up. I'll have to double check that when I'll have to look at the FAQ and double check that. But thankfully, I didn't roll a natural 1. Didn't roll a natural 20 either, but I didn't roll a natural 1. And the final readathon thing that I'm going to be doing in March is the final book support group. I've heard about this around here and there. Basically, the goal of this is to help people who are really bad about finishing series move forward and finish the series that they need to finish. So I'm going to try as much as possible to prioritize series that either I have one book left in, there are a couple of those, and read the final book in that series, or to like progress in series that are in what they call continuation station, which is basically you've just been sitting there with the first and second, or just haven't gone forward. This one is kind of spearheaded by the booktuber Steph Loves. It's kind of, from what I understand, a community effort. It wasn't just her idea, but she's the one that kind of is spearheading the rounds of the readathon. They're in round 5. This time around, since it's a month-long readathon, they are doing different cabins. I decided to go with the Buzzard's Beak because that one had the most prompts that I thought were interesting. So forgive me while I look down. So the prompts for Buzzard's Beak are to read a final book. All of them, you have to read a final book. To use a letter generator, to read a book with typography on the cover, to read a paperback book, and then you also, there's a prompt to do arts and crafts, so just go do something crafty, which, again, I knit now, I still crochet. I can spend some time doing that. And then the final one is go to look out something beautiful and alluring. You can just interpret that one however you want. So I'm going to try and find, which I think is what a lot of people do, a beautiful or an alluring cover. Those are all the readathons I'm going to be participating into. I'm going to run downstairs and grab the new prompts off of the printer, and then we will get into catching up with what Magdalene Embercloak is up to. When we last saw Magdalene and her party, they had just snuck into the catacombs beneath Farwater, trying to find a secret passage to the alchemist tower. The mysterious gray man from last time was able to provide them with a map that kind of gave them the quickest route out of the catacombs and in the direction that they are trying to go. Catacombs are only a small part of what is underneath Farwater, because Farwater has been built on top of itself over and over and over again. As they travel down below the city and come to the end of the catacombs, they're very quickly confronted with the fact that Farwater is a seaside town, and there are caves beneath this. The ground ends not too far outside of the catacombs, and they find themselves staring over the edge. Now there is a bridge spanning this chasm to the other side. Seeing that as their only option, the party approaches this bridge, and as they near it, they hear something moving in the water, and suddenly up on top of the bridge comes this very slimy, barnacle-covered troll. It heaves its body up onto the bridge, scummy water draining down its skin, and demands payment. Tells them they can either give it gold or they can answer a riddle. The party is a little bit low on funds at the moment, so they decide they will go for the riddle option. And that is where we come to our first consequence. For those that are new or need a refresher, consequences are what happen when I don't finish a book. I'm going to roll a d20. If I roll a 6 or higher, I do not suffer any consequences for not having read that book. If I roll a 5 or lower, I will have to do whatever the consequence for failing that quest is, and it may affect the future of where we're going. For this particular quest, the consequence is I have to add 1 quest to my usual quest load. My quest load is 8 quests. That is the most quests that you can quest. So, consequence number 1. That, my friends, is a natural 20. Doesn't do me any good here. I don't get anything fancy for natural 20s. I should probably do something about that. But it does mean we don't have to worry about the troll. The troll looks at our party and asks, "What can run but cannot walk?" The party looks at each other, because surely it cannot be that easy. That's a very simple riddle. Most of them, in fact all of them, know the answer to that riddle. It's a river, and the troll has to honor their bargain and let them pass. Our party warily makes their way across the bridge, waiting for the troll to turn and stab them in the back. But the troll has disappeared back into the water and doesn't bother them. They think that perhaps it just wasn't very creative when it comes to riddles. Magdalene and her friends make their way beyond the edges of the map that they were given, trying to, again, head themselves in what they believe is the general direction of the alchemist shop based on where they went. Got a little compass, they're following it, and then they come to a wall. They cannot go forward. They can go right or they can go left. Feeling that it would be foolish to split the party and seeing that the right-hand path does start going gradually upwards, they decide that they are going to go that way and hope that that gets them up higher. It leads them up, up, and into a room, almost. There are steps and a door leading up, and they're surrounded by various crates and boxes. There is a small desk in the corner, but all in all, it looks like just a store room. The party quickly spreads about the room, looking in the crates. Magdalene goes to the desk. Meat continues up and goes to the door to see if he can find where they are, figure out what's going on here. He quickly comes back and reports that they are, in fact, in an underground room beneath the blacksmith's forge. As he comes back with this news, Magdalene spies a piece of paper that is slid underneath the crate, just the corner kind of slipping out, and just thinks, I'm gonna see what it is, and she pulls it out to find a rather testy letter. Whoever wrote this letter did not leave a name, simply a emblem sketched into the bottom of the letter. It's not an emblem that is familiar to Magdalene, but as she reads through the letter and tries to piece things together, she sees that whoever it was seems to have been threatening the blacksmith, trying to get magical items like the sword that the blacksmith had them retrieve from the bearer right. The party thinks potentially of turning this over to the constable, but a vaguely threatening letter with no name on it really isn't all of that useful, so they think, why not? Why not do some of what we do and go snooping around in Wandermere? Wandermere is on the other side of the Dragonspine Mountains, which protects Farwater from the greater portions of Fablen. The party makes the necessary preparations and heads out the next day, traveling through the wilderness. Now, since it is on the way, the party decides that they'll just stop and see about spending the night at the halfling farm that you'll remember from a few episodes ago. Here is where we come to our second consequence. Now, the consequence for this quest, if I fail the roll, is that I have to choose a book that is 50 pages longer than the book I did not finish. Let's see what I roll. That's a 1. All they find are the burned skeletons of the barn and the halfling couple's house. Now, of course, the party does look around, trying to see if they could find any clues as to what happened to the halfling couple. They are not able to find much more than burnt and broken belongings, however. So they make camp for the night in the space between what used to be the barn and the house. In the morning, they do wait for the sun to rise to take one last look over the little homestead that belonged to these halflings. They're not really able to find much. However, Siobhan the druid is able to see that there are tracks leading away from the halfling's homestead, small, halfling-sized feet, leading in the direction of the greater wilderness. These tracks seem to indicate that the halfling couple fled as their house burned down. These tracks seem to indicate that at least one part of the pair fled as the house burned down. If the angle changed, it's because the battery died, because of course it did, but where were we? We were tracking some halflings. Our party follows their tracks, and as they get further and further, they start to experience this sense of deja vu. Like they've been here before. The day is waning as they approach the barrows, but the tracks are still there, and they follow them. Now this time, our party is able to lay a trap for the barrow wight. After a short scuffle, they manage to get it encased in a magical prison and ask it what happened to the halfling couple. As it turns out, both of them did make it into the wilderness and stumbled into the barrow, not knowing what it was, and the barrow wight took them and has been holding them in its tomb, captive and unconscious. The party quickly dispatches the barrow wight and its friends. They go and rescue the halfling couple, and it's decided that the halfling couple is going to come along with them as they go to Wandermere, at least until they can kind of get back on their feet and recover from losing their farm. The halflings in tow, our party gets back on the road, and they are able to make it over the mountain pass with no further incident over the next couple of days. Now, there is a river running through the Dragonspine Mountains and down into the valley below, so travelers do have to take a ferry to get to Wandermere. However, as they are making small talk with the ferryman, they find out not everyone was as lucky as the halfling couple. Not only are their homes burned down, but their livestock have been taken. And so on their first night in Wandermere, our party does do a little bit of digging, thinking that if they can solve this issue for the people of Wandermere, perhaps some doors will open and they'll be able to get a little more information, more of the information that they are coming for. It is believed that these raids are the work of a goblin clan that may or may not be holed up in an old mine in the mountain. And it just so happens there is quite a substantial reward for anyone that would be able to deal with this goblin problem. And so our party finds themselves at the mouth of this old mine, getting ready to delve down into the depths below. And that is where we will have to leave them until next month, because we gotta see what our next quests are gonna be. As a reminder, I have to read one science fiction book a month. I have to read at least a book that's at least 250 pages, and I need to read at least one backlist book per month. And I have to have 8 quests, as I have previously mentioned before. So we're gonna pull 8 of those from here. First one is A Night at the Halfling Farm. Read a collection of short works, poetry, short stories, essays. Choose a book that is, we already did that. I don't have many books that are that, so we're just gonna throw this back on the TBR. Our next one. This is why you shouldn't put the failed ones. Our next one, looking for the next quest. Read the next book in a series. If I do not finish this quest, or if I fail, the consequence for this quest is gonna be I can't start any new quests until this book is finished. Okay, I know exactly what this is gonna be. All right, so for this one, we are going to be pulling triple duty here. Oh boy. We are going to be going with The Atlas Paradox by Olivia Blake. This is the second book in the, I don't know what it's called, but like this is the sequel to the Atlas 6. The Atlas 6 is a book about 6 students that are recruited to be a part of this very prestigious, or like, it's not really, it's a secret society. 6 of them go in, only 5 can pass the initiation, and those 5 are going to get access to the knowledge of the Library of Alexandria. This is a tour title. So it's going to count for several prompts on the bingo board for TorDotComAthon. I am trying for a bingo, but I'm also going to try and black out the board if I can, if it's possible. This covers, hold on, I can show. This particular one would cover a BIPOC author. It also will cover World with Magic. What were the other one? Alternate history, and then in a series, because this is the second book in a series, this also is going to count for, Final Girl Support Group. It is going to count for the prompt to read a book with typography on the cover, because the cover is it's the main event. And then it will also cover the orc prompt, because it is a dark academia. Prompt number 3 is going to be 75. Discover ancient runes, and that is to read a cover that is primarily text, and I'm going to roll with disadvantage on consequence rolls if I fail this quest next month. Okay, we are gonna go with Even Though I Knew the End by C.L. Polk. This will cover the prompt that I had for Roll of Reads to read a BIPOC author. It also covers a whole bunch of prompts on the TorDotComAthon bingo board. Will give me, I think I just need a Portal Fantasy to complete a bingo if I read this. So that's the only thing that we have to actually add, is the Portal Fantasy part, which I think the Atlas Paradox might count, because technically they're in like a... Anyways, it might count, it might not. I'm not entirely sure, and I do have to find out. Number 4. A long journey. Ring the longest books on your shelf /TBR. If I don't finish this, I have to add 1 quest to my usual quest load. It's the fact that I actually knew this off of the top of my head. Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. This thing is almost 800 pages. Why, Cassandra? I love you, but why? This is the 3rd book in the Last Hour series. The Last Hour series follows the children of the characters from the Infernal Devices series, and it's basically about shadow hunters. There's so much that I have to explain for this that would spoil other things that happened in the series before. So just like, I'm having a good time. I've heard mixed reviews about this. I know that there are a lot of people that are kind of angry about some choices that she made. I think that the better option for her to have made some of those choices, I kind of have an idea. The better option would have been to be like, instead of trying to retcon it in the book itself, to be like, I actually, after further reflection, didn't like that choice. It was something that was meant to be an extra thing for a book, and I just decided, upon further reflection, once I'd written this series and gotten to know these characters, it really didn't fit them. So this is going to count for the final book prompt on the final book support group. I'm also going to use it to count for the cleric prompt for Roll of Reads, because like a huge plot point is one of the princes of hell. So there is all kinds of religious stuff in here. Moving on to prompt number 5. Riddle contest with the bridge troll. I understand that there are a lot of people that like this kind of 90s fantasy art style. It is not to my taste, so I am going to be diving back into The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. Is this an ugly cover? No, not really. I mean, it fits the time that this book was published in. I don't particularly like it though, so that's what we're going with. This is another Tor title. I am sure that it checks some stuff off on the Tor. Hold on. This is a Tor title, and it is going to cover... Hold on. It's going to cover hat or helmet on the cover. It's also going to cover weapon on the cover, and it is going to cover... Let's see. Is there anything else? Would it count as fairy tale inspired if we're counting more? Does Lord of the Rings count as a fairy tale? That's a good question. It's also in a series. It's not really romantic, but that's fine. And then it also will cover 1+ year on my TBR, because I've been meaning to reread this for a very long time. 6. Hired by a titled noble. Read a book with a name in the title. If I fail this quest, I have to add pages to a quest. The number of pages is going to be equal to a d6 times 10. Arusha and the Tree of Wishes. This will continue a series, obviously. It will also count for reading a book club book for Roll of Reads, because this is my own book club, and the book club book. I also might be buddy reading Eye of the World, so I guess that could count as well, but I actually have to read this one. So I think I'm also going to use this to count for the beautiful and alluring prompt, because this is just, it's pretty with all of the covers. There is a demon. There's a demon on the front of this. Or something. It's a big dark evil shadow. Alright, that was 6. Let's do 7. Nope, that one's backwards. Journey into Darkness. Read a book with dark themes. If I don't finish this, I have to choose a book 50 pages longer than my unfinished book to fulfill a quest. Okay. For that, I'm just going based on some general things I've heard about this. I'm not entirely sure if it has dark themes, but it sounds like it might. And that is Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. I have no idea what this is about. I know it's an epic fantasy series. Oh, okay, apparently it's about a main character who is claimed as the missing son of a treasonous prince, and he discovers that being a prince is not all it's cracked up to be. I do have this as an audiobook, or access to this as an audiobook, which is why I am choosing it, because I've been wanting to read this, and why am I starting more series? It's fine. I wanted to read this. All right, final prompt. Coming to a fork in the road, choose a book using a random generator. If I do not finish this book, I have to start the quest over from the beginning. That then will definitely cover a prompt for the buzzard's beak. Let me pull up random letter generator. Getting right up close so you can see, and L. I may replace this one with another title that fits this prompt, but it's what I had on hand. But I'm going to go through my uncompleted series and see, because I need to do that at some point. I'm going to go through my uncompleted series, and I am going to see if I can find one that would fit this, has an L in the title, but I'm going to go with To Love and To Loathe by Martha Waters. This is the second book in a trilogy, and so this will get me further on in a series that I haven't picked up in a while. Here are all of the books that I will be reading for the month of March for these readathons. This isn't even getting into what I need to read for the Eras reading challenge, but those tend to be a little bit easier to work with because I can just kind of assign them to whatever I've already read. It's a lot, but I do happen to have some plans that might make reading a whole bunch of stuff easier, or at least give me motivation to do that. Keep an eye on the Eras Twitter if you're interested for that. I don't know if this is coming out before or after that. In theory, it's going to come out before. Who knows at this point? I just get videos out when I get them out, you know? Talk to me in the comments about what you are reading in March, and which are you participating in any of these readathons, and what teams are you on? I don't have anything to plug right now because I haven't been making videos, although if you want to check out my best books of the year, go ahead and do that. I would appreciate it. A lot of people, weirdly enough, that one is more popular than my worst books of the year. That's never happened before, but that is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye! I don't know what to... There is bird poop on the top of my car. I may regret this. Basically, what's going to happen is I'm going to pull prompts from Fablen, which I need... Oh, shit, I have to go get those. No, I've forgotten how to... So anyways, I've forgotten how to outro videos.